Okay, today I'm going to be demonstrating how we would perform an aseptic transfer technique of being able to transfer bacteria from one tube to another tube. And we're going to pretend that this one has the bacteria in it and this one is the uninoculated media, so we'll be transferring from here to here. You'll notice that we have our Bunsen burner is on. When you're working with the Bunsen burners, just be very aware of where you are and where all your materials are to avoid any accidents here. We would want to be able to work in this space with fairly close to the Bunsen burner. And the reason for that is when the Bunsen burner is on, is actually creating convection currents that are pushing the air up and away from our workspace. So by working closely to the Bunsen burner, we're less likely to introduce contaminants from the atmosphere into our samples. So I'm going to demonstrate this the first time using the techniques for those who are right-handed, and then after I'm done with that, I will switch over and show you how to do the aseptic transfer technique left-handed as well. So let's start with the right-handed technique. The thing that you're going to do first is you have your inoculating loop. You would make sure your inoculating loop is in good condition, that it doesn't have any burrs on it, or that it's nice and straight, and that it doesn't have any breaks in the wire. Once you've done that, you know that you're able to use that particular loop. We're going to hold the test tubes here for those who are right-handed. We are going to hold the test tubes in your left hand, your non-dominant hand, and the instructions tell you to be able to hold the test tubes with them resting up against your fingers, with your thumb in between and the butt resting on the palm of your hand. There are some variations on how to hold these securely, and you can experiment with this a little bit, but this is a good standard technique to be able to do so. It gives you a lot of control over how to move these tubes, and they're very secure where they're not going to flop around. Also, you'll notice that I'm holding the tubes at about a 45-degree angle. We do not hold the tube straight up and down because we do not want to take the chance of introducing contaminants into these tubes. So we hold them at about a 45-degree angle so that it's less likely any bacteria from the atmosphere would be able to fall down into the tube, into our media. So you're going to make sure that your test tubes, that the caps are loose on there, and once the caps are loose, you will take your inoculating loop in your dominant hand. For those who are right-handed here, you're going to sterilize the loop by holding it at the top of the light blue flame until it turns red hot. We're going to sterilize the loop and the wire above it, and then we're going to let that cool for a few seconds. And while we're doing that, we are going to remove the caps from our tubes, and we're going to do that by grasping the first cap, holding it in our pinky here, and the second cap, grabbing it between those two fingers there. Still holding the test tubes at a 45-degree angle. We're going to run them over the flame to create some heat there. We're going to transfer some liquid from this tube with our sterile loop into this tube, and you will flame your tubes again, put the caps back on, and lastly we're going to sterilize our loop. And you would be able to set your loop down, and we would put our test tubes back in the test tube rack. Okay, so how would this vary if you were doing this for those who are left-handed? So what I find easier to do is, let's move the test tube rack over to the opposite side, and we're going to reverse the test tubes because we're transferring from this one to this one. We can still leave the inoculating loop where it is, but what you're going to be doing here is, for those who are left-handed, is you're going to put the test tubes in your right hand this time. You're going to rest them up against your fingers with your thumb holding in between, and the bottom of the test tubes resting on the palm of your hand. Very secure. Again, make sure that the caps are loose so you can take them off in a moment. We will start by sterilizing our loop and wire, holding it at the top of that light blue flame until it's red hot, and we will let that cool for a few seconds. And while that's cooling, we can grab this cap with a pinky and this cap with the next finger. We're going to flame these, transfer from this tube to this one. And then we're going to flame them again, and we're going to put our caps back on. And lastly, we will sterilize our loop one more time. Once we're done sterilizing the loop, we can then put the test tubes back into the test tube rack. And that's it.